dropping Thursday thoughts. I know we're 5 minutes early. We've got to be out by 11 o'clock. We're in preparation. We're catching up with the twos on the touchline so we can get you ready for the Twos and Hunt City on Sunday, 7 o'clock Eastern, 6:45 pregame here on the SDH Network. Jason will have the call for you on that one from Huntsville. Looking forward to that one. 3 matches left for Atlanta United 2. It is in Huntsville, back next Sunday, the following Sunday, not this Sunday, but the following Sunday. So 10, 17, and 24. 10th, they're in Huntsville, and we've talked about it, but remember, chasing after that 7 spot, 7 points back, 3 matches to go. They've got to win or at least match Chicago in one of these. There's that wiggle room. Chicago, Fire, Hunt City. They're both at 7 points ahead of Atlanta United. Philadelphia and NYC are 3 points ahead of Atlanta United. Basically, Atlanta United just needs to take care of business. Go to Huntsville, match Chicago. That's your margin of error. Then you come back home and take on Inter Miami for your final home match of the season on the 17th. Then you go to Columbus, last day of the regular season, to take on Crew 2. Their situation's probably done and dusted. They're in. They just have to figure out where they're going, and then they can figure things out from there. But, once again, margin of error. Chicago will have finished playing by the time Atlanta and Huntsville kick off, so they'll know what they need to match or exceed on this Sunday. But that margin of error is there for one match. Margin of error is there for one match, and it could be this one on the road. You cannot lose, though. No losses allowed. You can take it to extra time. You can win in penalties. You can get a full result if you're matching Chicago Fire. So we're out at 11 o'clock today, so we can catch up with coaches and get the pregame show all put to bed before the match on the weekend in Huntsville. Hi, it's a Thursday Thoughts. John here, you there. Here's the rundown of the show. News of the morning will take us through hour number 1, and there is some stuff adjacent stuff that we'll be getting into across the board. Ballon d'Or is out, both men's and women's. We do have some news involving Major League Soccer, and we'll keep an eye on it. There's some reports out involving the possibility of a current manager heading overseas to take a gig. So we'll keep an eye on that. We'll let you know about that. All of the news that's going on. This is the last day in the Saudi window. Turkey has another 8 days. They have until next Friday. If you're dealing with Turkish clubs, that's next Friday. Saudi window closes 5 p.m. Greenwich Mean. So that's noon. So 3 hours left in the Saudi window to determine whether or not Mo Salah will be going to Saudi Arabia. And it looks like the 200 million pound bid or 215 is going to be put on the table. So we'll see what happens involving Mo Salah and that window. We'll keep you posted as we go here on the show this morning. And like I said, we've got news. We've got news, adjacent news. We've got Ballon d'Or. We've got some stuff to talk about. We'll get you into hour number 2. Hour number 2 kicks off with, at the very least, our friend Kaylor Hodges from Birmingham, from our friends from the USL Show. They will be in at 10 o'clock, 9 o'clock Central Time. They'll be talking USL Championship. Big win last night for Memphis 901. And they knocked off Tampa Bay. So big points for 901. We'll go over everything in USL Championship. 10:30, our friend Niko Moreno is here. And it's Thursdays with Niko until 11 o'clock when we bid adieu. And then we come back at 9:05 on Friday morning. So that is the traffic for today. And evening, Bam. Hang on just a second. Okay, so Bam is trying to promote a very bad Collingwood, Melbourne. Collingwood, Melbourne. I want to see, hang on, because I know that there was stuff that was going on earlier. Okay, so 10 o'clock is Kazakhstan and Finland. We also have got the Euros. We got to go through juice boxes of that too. There was a nasty high hit in one of the games early in the overnight hour time. and I think the player got knocked out cold, and then his teammates came to his defense in the game that was in the overnight. But yeah, they're in the playoffs when it comes to the Australian rules football. So keep an eye on that. Don't forget to download their app, or you can download our app, and we'll just talk about it here in Opening Kickoff. All right, Opening Kickoff, brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee, kickoffcoffeeco.com. It's the QR code in the middle of the screen. First quarter of Melbourne and Collingwood. Thank you, ma'am. QR code middle of the screen is our friends from Kickoff Coffee. A lemonized service is the QR code for hour number 2 in our transitions. But that is the QR code for Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. You click on that QR code. Don't forget to use the code SoccerDownHere15. You get 15% off your purchases. They, in turn, take 10%, reinvest it into the youth game and youth initiatives. Very, very cool stuff from our friends at Kickoff Coffee and at kickoffcoffeeco.com. So, opening kickoff can go a bunch of different directions. And literally this morning, it's got to do with clothes before we get into other stuff. And the reason that morning, Nick's morning, Ricky. All right, opening kickoff this morning has to do with clothes. And maybe it's just because I am the bastion of health and exercise that I am. I will admit, and like I said, all of our workout routines are different. And all of our eating habits are different. Mine suck. Thank you, Bam. Yes, I caught it on the AFL's IG account, but that was a nasty bump. And Bam put that doing a public service, doing footy's work by posting it in the Twitch pitch. But like I said, I know that our workout habits are different. Our eating habits are different. I always try to sit there, and before I go to bed, I end up doing like a 45-minute routine of stretching and light workouts and things like that. Nothing to do with weights, but it ends up being about 45 minutes of stretching because I sleep like a pretzel. And, you don't want to wake up in the morning kind of like the Nick Nolte character in North Dallas 40 or Robert Redford when he wakes up in The Electric Horseman, and Jane Fonda and Dale Haddon are looking at those main characters, and they're sitting there going, okay, well, you're kind of bent. So nowadays, and like I said, I don't know if this just has to do with manufacturing and how things are. But I mean, I do my full set of push-ups. I mean, I do push-ups and I do stretching and those kinds of things. But because of what I'm doing with my push-up routine, I mean, it is by no means a gun show to put everyone else to shame, but I'm finding it more and more difficult to buy T-shirts. Traditionally, I like baggy T-shirts. And I'll wear an XL, even though, if I needed to wear something that was more form-fitting, it would be a large. I like baggy T-shirts. Oh, and by the way, this is Gotham's fundraiser for the wildfires in Hawaii, by the way. For some reason, nowadays, when I'm buying T-shirts and I buy an XL, it is tighter than tight here at the beginning of the sleeve, right at the shoulder. And so I have to go to the next one up just so I can be comfortable with my arms. And I don't know if you guys have the same problem or not. If you've got to go up a size more than you traditionally like, just because of how the T-shirt or the particular piece of clothing is made, and it's confining in here. And maybe I'm whining too much. I don't know. Maybe I'm doing too many push-ups. I don't know. But it's just one of those things where you sit there and it's like, man, they don't make T-shirts like they used to. They don't. And it's annoying. And so I didn't know if you guys were sharing through the same things when it came to purchasing your clothing and you had to go up a size just so. And like I said, it has nothing to do with workouts or anything, but just how the T-shirt is made or how that piece of clothing is made. Literally, you're feeling it right under here, and there's no room to move. And everything kind of slides up, and then you start to, It's like you get like almost like the rug burns from having to do it. So I've had to go up most of the time now. I've had to go up to the double X. And I didn't know if you guys were going through the same things and the same frustrations when it came to buying clothes these days, just because of how we work out and all these other kinds of things. So I was, like I said, it was just something that popped into my head as I was, putting clothes on this morning. And I'm like, really? Yeah. And apparently nowadays you've got to go up an extra size just so you can fit your arms into things. And I didn't know, like I said, I didn't know if it was something that was just me and me being crazy and silly and stupid, or if it was a universal thing when it came to shopping and all these kinds of things. So there you go. Like I said, that's your question of the day. Are you having the same kind of shopping issues I am when it comes to your clothes? That's opening kickoff. Brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee, kickoffcoffeeco.com. There's your QR code. For those of you who are watching on Twitch, it's the one in the middle. Don't forget, with Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com, don't forget to use the code SoccerDownHere15. You get 15% off of your purchases. They, in turn, take 10% and reinvest it into the youth game. Very, very cool stuff from our friends at Kickoff Coffee and the kickoffcoffeeco.com. There's a lot of stuff to watch coming up throughout the day. And our friends at Fanatis, it looks like they have been able to grab a lot of the CONMEBOL World Cup qualifiers. Our friend Christopher Harris over at World Soccer Talk. Pay-per-view basis, $30 a match. Bundle of 2 for a national team for $50. All of the games in the window for $100. Today, it is, 7 o'clock. It's 6:30. Paraguay and Peru, that's on Fanatis. Colombia, Venezuela is at 7 on Fanatis. Argentina, Ecuador is on Telemundo on the TV side and VIX on the streaming side. Tomorrow, Uruguay and Chile, 7 o'clock on Fanatis. Brazil and Bolivia is at 8:45 on Universo and VIX on the streaming side. And then everything picks back up again after the weekend. So Fanatis picked up South American qualifiers. And then, like under the wire yesterday, Daniel Nora from his car lets you know about the Argentina and Brazil stuff that was happening right there at literally the 11th hour, like 11:30. Daniel Nora's in his car, and he says that Telemundo and Univision got the rights. Deal closed late Wednesday after both Argentina and Brazil signed an agreement this week to be represented by Sport 5, a German-based sports marketing agency. Sport 5 was able to accomplish what Brax and Torneos could not do, getting a deal done in the States. Telemundo Univision share the rights for Argentina and Brazil matches. There is a clear distinction of who gets what. For Univision's sports division, it secures a rights agreement that includes 9 home matches of Argentina, 9 home games of Brazil. All of those games streaming on VIX. Once again, the Spanish language service run by Televisa Univision. Telemundo's got the TV rights. According to World Soccer Talk, they say equally that's quite a coup, considering Telemundo will be the only broadcaster airing CONMEBOL World Cup qualifiers featuring Argentina and Brazil home matches on linear television. Telemundo with Inter Miami matches on MLS Season Pass. Telemundo gives you that rare chance to see Messi on TV. Coverage, 26. Nick, you're right. I mean, it's weird and crazy. CONMEBOL is already qualifying for World Cup 26. Univision's rights deal with Argentina and Brazil runs through 26, and that also includes all rights in Mexico. Each football association sells their rights separately. And, of course, everybody's sitting there going, oh, my God, I've got to get like 9,000 different streaming services or opportunities to watch everybody. Fanatis came to the rescue. Apart from the Brazil and Argentina deals, all the football associations agreed to deals to bring their matches to the pay-per-view side of Fanatis, as well as home Ecuador games on Fanatis and pay-per-view. Bolivia has yet to find a broadcaster partner to air their home matches. So that's where we are. I mean, like 11:30, 11:45 on the clock, you get that deal with Telemundo and Univision for Argentina and Brazil. That was definitely under the wire. Definitely under the wire. And by the way, Nations League also starts at 4 o'clock today. So, well, I mean, let's go ahead and get to the grid because, I mean, we always talk about what's on TV. Yeah, it is what happens when you don't qualify for when you don't qualify for Copa America. All right, here's your grid. BN and BN has AFCON qualifying at noon. Ghana and the Central African Republic. And once again, for BN, CDO, CDOP, TEC, I mean, literally all the BNs. Nuestra Tele, for the fans, all of them. Fanatis or the pay-per-views if you're so inclined. fntz.co/soccer down here. Get you in the door with all their free services. You get the Brasileiro and all that kind of stuff. For the fans, RCN, Nuestra Tele, CDO, CDOP, Gold TV, TEC, BN en Español, and right now they've got Al Angulo from TEC on right now. But that is one of the easy ways that you can catch up on everything going on in South America. ESPNU's got women's college action. It is the Carolina Derby. It's 7 o'clock on the U. FS2 is very, very busy starting at 10 o'clock. Kazakhstan, Finland, Lithuania, Montenegro, France, and Ireland is your marquee matchup at 2:45. We're going to juice boxes here in a bit. Longhorn Network has Texas women. The Tupac Network has triple header for women's college soccer. SEC Network's got soccer. BN en Español is your simulcaster for AFCON. Fox Deportes tonight. Liga MX Femenil at 9. Atlas and Atletico San Luis. 2DN has a friendly Norway and Jordan to get on the board. ACC has a lot of stuff on ACC Extra. You've got a match on Season Pass tonight in Next Pro. The Revs trying to hang on to the 2 seed, and if not, try to sneak their way past Crown Legacy with a couple matches to go. They host OCB tonight at 6 from Gillette. B1G Plus has a lot of college action. So does ESPN Plus. Boy, do they have a lot of action. A lot of it is on the women's side. 3-6-7 men's matches and like 9 gazillion women's matches across the board. Fanatis, once again, we talked about Fanatis. Flow has women's soccer. Fox Soccer Plus has the Bulgaria-Iran match at noon. Serbia-Hungary at 2:45. Fubo has Netherlands and Greece at 2:45. SEC Plus has a bunch of women's soccer as well. So that's your grid. Your very, very busy grid today. Very, very busy grid when it comes to what you can watch all across the board. But Fanatis on the pay-per-view side, they came to the table late. They came to the table late and got it all figured out when it comes to qualifying. So it's Fanatis, it's Telemundo, Univision, 2DNA, and all that. So looking at your friendlies, you've had some early stuff go on in U19s and U21s, and there's a lot of stuff going on in Africa and the Middle East. Looking at those numbers that we were staring at, Norway, big favorite, no surprise. Austria, huge favorite, no surprise. Wales is an underdog at home to South Korea. South Korea is a plus 146, and Wales is a plus 193. In the Euros, once again, everything kicks in at 10 o'clock. Finland a favorite on the road. Montenegro on the minus side a favorite on the road. Czech Republic a favorite at home. San Marino, they were having a very, very interesting contest, by the way, on the 280 character app. One of the fan accounts for San Marino this morning was actually giving away San Marino gear. And as you know how I am the patron saint of lost souls and all that kind of stuff. The way that it was phrased, we not we may not be able to score goals, but you will be able to score this jersey and, follow things along on the 280 character app. Follow along, like, blah, blah, blah. Give them your size. I thought that was very cool marketing from our friends at San Marino. San Marino is at Denmark. It is basically off the board, but San Marino is a plus 65.05 at Denmark at 245. I may watch that one just because it's San Marino. Both teams to score, courtesy of our friends in the composite odds portal. Doesn't even register. They are not looking at it with okay, here we go. Both teams to score. The average on no is a minus 647, basically a minus 650 on no for both teams scoring when it comes to San Marino. Average on yes is a plus 403. So if you've got some stinky juice boxes in the back of the fridge to see if San Marino scores, you can get in basically to plus 400. Highest is a plus 450. So Denmark and San Marino at 245. Will San Marino score? That's your biggest question. France and Ireland. France is a minus 476. Ireland is a plus 1,500. Netherlands and Greece. I know that there is interest here with that. Greece is a plus 670 in the composite. Draws a plus 338. The Netherlands on the minus side at a minus 222. Poland and our friends from the Faroe Islands. Faroe Islands are north of plus 2,200. Poland's minus 770. And the Greece-Netherlands odds are changing as we go. Serbia on the minus side at home facing Hungary at a minus 135. Slovenia is a minus 105 going up against Northern Ireland at a plus 357. So you've got that to stare at when it comes to your numbers at 245. Today at 4, Nations League, Anguilla St. Martin. Trinidad Tobago's at 6 in League A going up against Curacao. Might be the match of the night. 6 and 7 in League B. 2 more matches, St. Martin and St. Lucia, St. Kitts, Nevis, and Guadeloupe. The Virgin Islands and the Cayman Islands at 7 o'clock. League A in Nations League. 8 o'clock, Panama, Martinique, 10-10, Guatemala, and El Salvador. Panama's a big favorite. Guatemala is a plus 104. They are favored. El Salvador is a plus 280. Tomorrow, everything kicks back in at 4 o'clock. We'll go over those odds tomorrow as well. So there's Nations League. There's the Euro qualifying. There's South American qualifiers. It is crazy time. Have your multiple screen experience ready to go. And yes, Jurgen is in trouble, just on premise. I think Jurgen is in trouble. Yeah, Ricky's diving in. It is no doubt about it. Jurgen's always in trouble, I think. Bam says the Mexico-Australia friendly's on Saturday night in Texas. So you got all of that stuff going on. Okay. Those are your juice boxes and ready to roll. Ballon d'Or came out yesterday. Both lists came out. And you have a lot of Premier League nominees, some guy named Messi. So here you go. Here are all of your Ballon d'Or nominees. Ballon d'Or has their own 280 character app, by the way. All right, so let's run through them real quick. And there's a name missing for the first time in his career on the men's side. Julian Alvarez, Barella, Bellingham, Benzema, Bunu, De Bruyne, Diaz, Griezmann, Gundogan, Vardiol, Erling Haaland. That's where my money is. Kane, Kolomowani, Kvaratskhelia, Lewandowski, Emiliano Martinez. Great to see a keeper there. Lautaro Martinez, Mbappe, Messi, Kim Min-jae, Modric, Musiala, Odegaard, Onana, Osimhen, Rodri, Saka, Salah, Silva, Vinicius Jr. So that's your men's side on the Ballon d'Or. Did you notice somebody who's missing? Not nominated for the first time in his career, CR38. CR38 not listed on the Ballon d'Or. You know, he doesn't even get the okie doke for longevity. Go to the Saudi Pro League and you disappear. Not happening. My money's on Haaland, like with the year that he had last year. So that's where I would go anyway. Women's side, this is where we need Bart Keeler's advice. Bonmati, Bright, Caicedo. He'd probably give it to Linda Caicedo. Carmona, Daly, Dabinia, Diani, Mary Earps. They still need to sell her jerseys, by the way. Guijaro, Hasegawa, Ilstead, Sam Kerr, Mapi Leon, Katie McCabe, Miyazawa, Oberdorf, Oshuala, Payor, Parayuelo, Alexandra Pop, Haley Rosso, Alba Redondo, Gudo Reiten, Wendy Renard, Rolfo, Roard, Khadijah Shaw, Bunny Shaw, Sophia Smith, Georgia Stanway, and Daphne Van Domselaar. I'd go Linda Caicedo. Bam, thanks for hanging out for the first half hour, as you always do, at the very least. 11:30, you got a big day tomorrow. NFL kicking off, and so Bam is going to bed early. He's not hanging out with us for the remainder. So I would go Haaland, and I would go with Linda Caicedo. Like I said, that's just me. Like I said, that's just me. So those are my thoughts on the Ballon d'Or. So that is out and about in the world. So Ballon d'Or is officially official now that we're looking at Ballon d'Or candidates. Haaland, Caicedo, that's me. Gossip, rumor, and innuendo this morning, as we've talked about everything going on in the Euros and all of that. Graham Potter has turned down the Lyon job. There was talk, and now Lopetegui's being considered. John Textor, the head of Lyon and several other clubs, Ligue 1 club made him their first choice to oversee a major restructuring at Lyon, but Graham Potter said it's not the right time to get back into management. Big ambitions for the club. Bottom of the table, Textor says he's going to invest heavily in the squad facilities over the coming months and years. He's now going to turn to Fonseca, who's at Lille, but apparently that is not going to go down, and Julian Lopetegui, who left Wolves in August. At least in this particular situation, Lopetegui will not be completely and totally bereft of funds and investment like he said he was at Wolves. Potter's been out of work since sacked by Chelsea back in April, 31 matches into a 5-year deal. Continuous work for Potter, but he is not interested in the Lyon deal, and so they does not look like Fonseca is going to be allowed there, and so it's probably now Lopetegui. So that's where we are with some of the coaching down here. Speaking of coaching down here, in the papers, and once again, this is the 3-letter paper. Please take the information at your own peril. John Terry linked to Saudi side Al-Shabaab to make his managerial breakthrough. We'll keep an eye on that. Remember, as we've said, end of the window for your transfers in Saudi Arabia is noon. noon local time, noon our time. So we'll keep an eye on the Saudi Pro League. Damari Gray is officially official, and I will give them credit because they did release Damari Gray signing, and they did a cute little 8-bit deal when it came to signing certain players, and they at least were self-aware when it came to signing Damari Gray, where they tried to say, are we signing Salah? It threw this 8-bit video game routine. So now it was very, very cool. Yeah, Future they did. They just didn't say that they were selling a whole lot of them. Yeah, Future said that he thought Nike said they would sell Mary Earps jerseys. They are, but it was like a limited number, and it wasn't like something where you'd sit there and go, okay, yeah, I want to dive in and get a Mary Earps jersey, and they'd make it, easy for it to happen. It's like a real limited number. Yeah, next, there you go, limited, and it's online. So it wasn't given the same graces and entry points that you see with, I don't know, everybody else. You get in your own way sometimes. You get in your own way. And Nike's doing this with the Lionesses. You have all of these players that you could make an absolute mint off of. An absolute mint. And you continue to fall on your face. All of the supporters of women's national soccer in England. Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of girls who are incredibly impressionable who love Mary Earps and they want to be like Mary Earps. They should have that same kind of access. I want a Mary Earps jersey, and it took forever, and it took Mary Earps going on social media to explain the situation, and it's still not to the point where it should be. I mean, come on. It's a goalie jersey. Make it available and make it more available than it is. Yeah, you sat there and you're like, yeah, we'll make it available, but then you won't do it to the point that you should. So I typed in Mary Earps jersey sales. This goes back to the 25th. Our friends at Sports Pro Media. A limited number finally being made available to buy by the FA's technical partner, Nike. Earps had said prior to the World Cup it was hugely disappointing and hurtful. Replica kits were not available to purchase. Former Sports Minister Tracy Crouch had even made a call to Nike. This is what Nike said on the 24th. We've seen and share the unprecedented passion and interest in women's football this year to remain committed to playing our part by offering the best products and services to athletes and fans. We invested more in this year's World Cup than any other global tournament to date. Nike has secured limited quantities of goalkeeper jerseys for England, the U.S., France, and the Netherlands, sold through federation websites over the coming days. Also in conversations with our other federation partners. We recognized during the tournament we didn't serve those fans who wish to show their passion and support to their squad's goalkeepers. We are committed to retailing women's goalkeeping jerseys for major tournaments in the future. Manchester United confirmed her number 27 shirt was the second best selling women's replica shirt so far this season, behind Ella Toon. But Nike gets busted. And then they're like, yeah, we'll do limited numbers of keepers. Limited numbers of keepers. You can't get out of your own way sometimes. You really can't. And not to be outdone once again, our friends at Nike. Eric Dyer, according to the Telegraph, has had talks with Tottenham chairman Daniel Levy after being frozen out by Ange Postecoglou. According to The Athletic, and this is something that we probably need to discuss a little bit. It looks like Chelsea, if I could spell athletic, may have a shirt sponsor. They may have a shirt sponsor. Riyadh Air. They might have one. So a Saudi airline, Riyadh Air. Crafton and Joey Durso. Chelsea execs hosted reps from Riyadh Air, pitched a potential front of shirt sponsorship deal as the club continued talks with a number of companies to grow their commercial revenue. Riyadh Air already sponsors Atletico Madrid, is owned by the PIF. Beat 2, 3, 4. The majority owner of Newcastle United. And back to jerseys really quickly. Future, luckily your son can get his Ertz jersey. So the PIF, which owns Riyadh Air and Newcastle United, because of the three-dimensional process in which they own things in that country, possibly might have a shot at being on the front of the Chelsea jersey. Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman announced the formation of the new airline in March. Still hasn't flown a plane. Doesn't plan on doing so until 2025. But in the out front, which is what they call it in TV, when you put all of your stars out in front of the media and the public to answer questions about an upcoming season, in the out front, you're already seeing pictures of Riyadh Air and jerseys and things like that. So they haven't flown a plane. They won't be flying planes until 2025. But Riyadh Air, owned by the Saudi PIF and owned by Newcastle United and owners of Newcastle United. So Riyadh Air on the front of the Atletico Madrid shirt, owned by the PIF, majority owner Newcastle United, haven't flown a plane. Crown Prince says, I'm going to start an airline. And so he's already in the promotional aspect of it all before they take off literally in 2025. Chelsea could have them on the front of the shirt. Chelsea officials, including Chief Exec Chris Jurasek, hosted a Riyadh Air delegation for the loss to Nottingham Forest. The club then pitched to the airline about a multi-year sponsorship deal for the men's and women's teams. Another contender for the front of shirt sponsor is the betting website Kayun Sports, which announced the deal with Nottingham Forest last week. Kayun appears to target customers in China where gambling is illegal and accesses the UK market via a white label agreement with a company on the Isle of Man. It's unclear what country Kayun is based in or who its owners are, which is extremely unusual for a sponsorship deal of this prominence, according to Adam Crafton and Joey Durso. And this would be where we would probably turn to our friends at Yosemar Football to see what kind of investigation they're doing when it comes to sponsorships. And by the way, required reading was from our friends at Yosemar. Their investigation into the Slovenian FA and the women's national team. It is a deep dive. And once again, required reading from our friends at Yosemar Football. Continuing our Chelsea story. Chelsea are reassured, however, by the fact Kayun have existing deals with Real Madrid, Crystal Palace, and Inter Milan, while the betting firm already has a partnership deal with Chelsea and was displayed on billboards at Stamford Bridge last week. The club have previously a deal with have had a previous deal with Asian gambling website Leyu Sports, which The Athletic in a story revealed was fronted by non-existent employees. and called off a potential front of shirt deal with Stake back in June after a fan-led backlash. Premier League clubs, remember, voted to ban all gambling firms from front of shirt sponsorship starting in 2026. But this season, which is not 2026, 8 of the 20 teams have gambling firms on the fronts of their shirts. 40%. Now, I don't know how many of you went to the summer kickoff at MBS, and it's also carried over. But Chelsea's blank on the front of their shirt. They're trying to replace the Mobile Network 3. That was what that logo was. They're a mobile network. There have been negotiations with Infinite Athlete, an operating system for sports. That's what they call themselves. But that deal is still waiting approval from the Premier League. So you've got now let's see if we can follow this tracking. Infinite Athlete is a recently formed company that came together when Tempus Ex Machina, a tech company which signed a 7-year partnership with Chelsea, acquired BioCore, meaning Tempus now go under the name Infinite Athlete. The investment fund Silver Lake, here we go with hedge funds again, an investment fund, which now owns more than 18% of City Football Group, read Manchester City, is also an investor in Infinite Athlete, but Chelsea do not consider this or the fact that Riyadh Air is owned by the majority shareholder of Newcastle to be a deterrent. Infinite Athlete would be for the remainder of this season as they are trying to target the European sports market after their launch. The existing partnership with Tempus saw them install something called MatchView X technology on the app this year. You can watch games back, access player tracking data and graphics and such. Riyadh Air Cayun Sports might be something that would start at the beginning of next year. Conversations, according to Chelsea sources to Ornstein et al. Conversations are ongoing with others, including another major technology company in the U.S. No deal with either the Saudi airline or Cayun is imminent. The club hosts prospective partners reasonably often at games, and it does not always mean a deal will be completed. Chelsea hosted Allianz, apparently, at a match recently, but it didn't come to fruition. Club indicated that to the Athletic club sources, Chelsea will be seeking an overall package of £60 million, $75 million per year for the front of shirt sponsorship to include both men's and women's, trying to compete with the deal that Emirates did with Arsenal. So, Chelsea hosting Riyadh Air. Chelsea hosting Riyadh Air on the idea, hey, we haven't started the airline yet. Well, you started the airline. We're not flying yet. But Riyadh Air is already on the front of Atletico Madrid. And so Riyadh Air, hosted by Chelsea, as Chelsea looks for somebody to drop $75 million US on the front of a jersey. Obviously, this thing with Infinite would be prorated for the remainder of the year. So 75 million, down 20%, or however many percent it would be before they could come up with any kind of a deal. And something that our friends at Yosemar do very, very well is with all of these online betting agencies, they've done a lot of deep dives in the past about where they exist, numbers of employees, shadow companies, where they really are, all these kinds of things. And the circular nature of their existence and where they might be housed versus where they claim to be from and who owns them. They've done fantastic work in this. You can go back in their library and you can kind of see what they're looking at when it comes to chasing after these things. They went after one of the Manchester City group online betting agencies in years past. So Yosemite Football really does a lot of great bloodhound work when it comes to letting everybody know where these companies are based and what they actually do. Don't be surprised if they end up with doing something with Cayenne coming up near form. Knicks, yes. Yeah, Ricky. Saudi airline, they hadn't even taken their first flight yet. Yeah, Knicks. Hey, what's another way we can whitewash all the oil money? Oh, how's about an airline? Well, yeah, Ricky, it feels antitrust, because if you're staring at it and you're going, okay, it's the PIF, that because the PIF is this overarching idea that has so many different tentacles in it, that to me would be the instant red flag. And you sit there and you go, hey, wait a minute. Yeah, let's just create an airline. Let's build cars. Well, let's do construction. How many different ways can you sit there and try to have public investment? Yep, let's build an airline. That's what they're doing. Yeah, well, I mean, Nick says it's weird that EPL front assured sponsors seem to have gone downhill over the past decade. Yeah, I mean, it used to be the big companies, AIG, Samsung, Chevrolet, that kind of stuff. But, yeah. So that's where we are. The fact that Man City booked $67.5 million in revenue from Etihad front assured sponsorship is ridiculous. That's all the sideways stuff. Yes, that is all the sideways stuff. And Ricky doing a public service. Fenty and Puma with Rihanna. Available September 15th. Yes. The public service announcements. Yeah, shoes. Oh, look at the front of XBTQ. The XBTQ. Let me check it really quick. The Miami. Yeah, hang on just a second, because I know that's part of one of those too. Enter Miami jersey with sponsors. BTO. I was a letter off. Okay. XBTO. I think it's cryptocurrency, as the interwebs are thinking. But yeah, XBTO, I think, is crypto. And so, if somebody wants to sit there and, if they want to. Okay, so here's how XBTO refers to themselves. Established in 2015, XBTO offers a comprehensive platform for digital assets and tailored investment solutions cater to sophisticated non-U.S. investors and institutions. Here's how they phrase themselves. At the intersection of digital assets and traditional finance, XBTO, with its principals having more than 8 years of experience in digital assets and more than 20 in traditional finance, offers expert insights and solutions to navigate the relatively new and dynamic field of digital assets. Digital asset requirements, and they're really playing up the front. They're on the front of the jersey. Market making, institutional trading. XBTO, by the way, licensed to conduct digital assets business by the Bermuda Monetary Authority. Certain restrictions may apply. So, XBTO, grounded in the principles of traditional finance, our insights and approach to risk encapsulate rigor, stability, and proficiency. We've adapted these principles to the digital asset realm, thereby shaping the robust foundation of our corporate governance and control practices. This is investment through digital assets. They're like a brokerage house for digital. So, all right. So as we continue to go down the XBTO website, Our organizational ethos is deeply anchored in the commitment to rigorous risk management, strict adherence to governance, and uncompromising regulatory compliance. This is when they mentioned Bermuda Monetary Authority. So, yeah. It seems to me like they are a digital assets brokerage house rooted in traditional finance, but they're, in today's digital age. And yes. Yeah, Nick's, nothing says stability like crypto. Exactly. For something that doesn't exist. Yeah, and that's the thing. Yeah, it is. It Michael Head, you are absolutely correct. It is a bunch of gibberish. But it is approved by the Bermuda Monetary Authority. So, yeah. Yeah, so Hutch, we went down this right turn. USL Show guys are joining us in 10 minutes. We went down this right turn because of Chelsea entertaining Riyadh Air in the possibility of trying to get them to be the front of the jersey sponsor. Riyadh Air is a part of the PIF, which owns Newcastle United. At least there were actual tulips during the tulip craze. Yes, there were. That's your Google reference for the morning, kids. So we went down the Riyadh Air route, pun unintended, and talked about the PIF, talked about diversity of investment, and then was brought to the floor about XBTO, and we're trying to figure out what they specifically are and or do. And so that's where we are. That's where we ended up going down this road and looking at jersey sponsors, for Chelsea's case, for an airline that doesn't exist yet and won't exist till 2025, but is more than happy to be seen spending money and trying to sit there and possibly be on the front of jerseys like they are at Atletico Madrid, possibly going to Chelsea. So that's what we were getting into. So yeah, that's where we are. That's where we were. We went down a road, and that's where we are. Matt Slater, bit of a developing story. It's not necessarily breaking news. UK government reinstated its intention to introduce an independent regulator for English football as soon as possible, following a 7-month consultation process with clubs and football authorities. Renewed commitment is made clear in the consultation response published by the Department for Culture, Media, and Sport to its February white paper, A Sustainable Future, Reforming Club Football Governance. White papers are documents that are set out proposals for future legislation on the road to this landmark intervention. This is Matt Slater's wording from The Athletic. Started in 2019. That followed the shock expulsion of Bury from the EFL and the near collapse of Bolton and ESL, and talked about Tracy Crouch. And so the outline of this particular white paper is that Culture Secretary Lucy Frazier wants to see the teams protected in the British umbrella, and they outline their plans. Says the government is minded to set up a new body to house the regulator, but all options remain under review and will consult experts on the matter. So white paper's out. And 5 minutes early. Hey, he's punching his clock 5 minutes early. Tell you what, I want to read a promo, and then we'll get into the our friends from the USL Show. Kaylor Hodges is here, and he is waiting for me to stop talking, and he's waiting for me to read a promo. So we'll do exactly that, and then we'll get into our friends from the USL. They had big action last night. We'll get into that coming up in just a little bit. So we find the music, read a promo. From our friends at Eliminized Service. Eliminized Service for odor-free, clean, fresh air. One place you need to go. It is Eliminized. QR code over my left shoulder for those of you who are watching on SDH social media, whether it is on Twitch, if it is on Twitter, or if it's on the Facebook. Eliminized Service deodorizes enclosed spaces like houses, apartments, and condos. They've created a customized solution that eliminizes all organic odors, including those like pet cigarettes and food. Realtors and property managers use Eliminized Service to eliminate odors to help them sell or rent their homes that much faster. It's a turnkey process. Makes it easy to work with said realtors and property managers. I'll take your word for it, not knowing what a turnkey process is. I've yet to look that up. Sounds good. Lemonized service, kind of the environment, offering a green way of getting rid of odors without any kind of toxic residue whatsoever. We like that. Different than Febreze or other masking agents that you may have either above you in the cupboard or below you under the sink in your kitchen or room of choice. Because when you reach under the sink or above you in the cupboard to grab said masking agent and you spray it in the air, it's the reason they call it a masking agent. You're just masking the odors. You're not attacking the problems like our friends at a Lemonized Service do with their proven scientific formula pricing. One of two ways. Either by the cubic foot or parts per million and come up with a price that's affordable for you. Offering results in 24 hours or less. If you have any questions, frequently asked or otherwise, one place you need to go, it's the website. And this is where I grab my pen. Website is lemonize.com, but do us a favor here at SDH. Add /Atlanta after the .com so they know what part of the world that you are reaching out to them from to finish a sentence in a preposition. Your full homework assignment, ELIMINIZE.com/Atlanta, lemonize.com/Atlanta. Photo-free, clean, fresh air. Lemonize Service, proud sponsors of everything SDH. As we go through Thursday thoughts involving crypto and PIF and all these other kinds of things and Ballon d'Or and all the news and the Euros and all the matches that are going on. And to that end, we now bring in Kaylor Hodges and our friends from the USL Show. Kaylor, where are you? This is a new environment that we are seeing you in.
This is my school office, which is an absolute mess because we're preparing for, Friday Night Lights, the high school football, which
man,
everything is an absolute disaster around here. But that's okay.
No, it is not a disaster if you are working your way forward to get everything prepared for Friday Night Football. I know how it is in the AHSAA. I'm right there with you. I'm a state over and an hour ahead. I know what's going on. I know what goes on with Hoover and Vestavia and Oak Mountain and all those folks and all those folks. So no, trust me, I know what's going on there, sir.
We're all about it. We don't have that kind of money though. We're not that kind of. Hey, that's all right. We don't need money. We have heart. Which is also what we say about the USL versus MLS. You know what I mean?
Yes. Yes, I do. The reason that we bring you in and we bring you and Morrissey in the USL Show in is that we like to talk about stuff. That's the official term.
Yeah.
Life in USL Championship. First off, let's go big match last night. Big result for Memphis 901 as they were down. And then by the end of the evening, they were not. So
no.
Big win for 901, a loss for Tampa at one of the worst possible times.
Yeah, it was a massive win for Memphis, which doesn't come without controversy at the very end because there is a real shout of it being offside when that third shot was put on goal because Malloy gets a penalty. It's saved by Sparrow. Great save. The next shot goes off target. He hits the post from basically the penalty spot again. And then the follow-up, you can say that the person who took the shot, and I'm blanking on who it was off the top of my head, was offside, but they're calling it an own goal by Lasso. But I think a lot of Tampa Bay fans are saying the shot was offside. It should never happen anyway. Even so, this is Tampa Bay that was without their head coach due to personal reasons. Nicky Law was not there, who, if you're like Nicky Law, old coach is over at Barnsley now, Neil Collins. So, new coach comes in and then a little bit of like, okay, now our other coach isn't here. So I think a lot of Tampa Bay fans knowing that their head coach wasn't going to be there, maybe sort of accepted a loss beforehand, but you have a Tampa Bay team that really didn't create a whole lot. They get 2 goals from 3 shots on target, but they didn't really create a whole lot outside of that. This is not the same kind of Tampa Bay team. It was a nice defensive performance from Memphis, but I'm also willing to say that it was more chalked up to lack of creativity for Tampa Bay. And then Memphis, they can score goals for fun. They have one of the most fun attacking teams in the league. They have some of the most talent, and it's really impressive with what they have. And them being able to create like crazy, while it's a little bit of a shock against Tampa Bay, it's also Memphis. They have that sort of talent just ready to them.
Nothing like the world freezing up as we're trying to talk about things. But no, you're on a good roll. When you look at Nicky Law and what he's been able to do there in Tampa, how would you break down what Nicky has been able to do taking over for Neil? I know it's a different vibe and getting adjusted to players and things like that. But what's been your takeaways with Nicky as head coach, leaving Hunt City as a player coach in MLS Next Pro with Jack Collison and now heading to Tampa?
Yeah, I mean, well, kind of with what I was saying before everything just decided to freeze up. You know, like Nick Law has brought in a lot of stability. He's a guy that's done the Neil Collins thing. He played under Neil Collins. So it's a bit of a continuity that happens there. And, Neil Collins was there for a really long time, and there's a bit of a continuity there. And there hasn't been a massive change in system per se.
Yeah.
That said, I mean, this is a team that's as steady as ever. You could probably say, well, the defense isn't holding up like you want it to. I mean, example, this Memphis game, but like I was also saying before, like I said, the world decided to freeze.
Yeah, really.
Yeah, like Memphis can score goals for fun. They have that kind of attacking system. So it's not like it's a downright bad. In all reality, as much as we don't want to talk about it, it is a little bit of a world of Jimmys and Joes, right? You can, as long as you can maintain the same system that Neil put out there, which Nicky Law has done with a couple of tweaks, obviously.
Yeah.
But you still have this superior talent, which Tampa Bay does. You're going to be all right. And yeah, this is not the best time to get a loss, but also they were doing so well before it. Obviously, they want to get as high on the table and maybe snag that top spot if they can. But also, all you need is that home playoff game, and you have your playoff chances rolling.
They got a match in hand right now with Screaming Bob Lilly and the Pittsburgh Riverhounds. And the funny thing about the East is that right now with playoff pursuits, it's 3 separate groups.
Yep.
You've got Pittsburgh, Tampa, Charleston.
Mm-hmm.
And Pittsburgh and Tampa have clinched a postseason berth because of the math that's involved further down the table. You've got 1, 2, and 3 chasing after each other. You've got 4, 5, and 6 chasing after each other. And Lou City 9-0-1 and Indy 11. Birmingham's got a bit of a buffer. They've lost 2 in a row. And then you have the chaos right now at 8, where Tulsa is at 32. Had a 3-game losing streak come at the worst possible time, but they've shaken that off with a win. Detroit City at 31, and not a Miami FC, but the Miami FC right now in 10th at 29 points. So you've got these 3 groups chasing after all of this activity in the Eastern Conference. 1 through 10 still has stuff to play for. It's just of varying degrees.
Yeah, and you mentioned this East. It really is the top, and there are teams that you don't expect to be where they are. Like you talk about Lou City, right? Them being in 4th, and yeah, they're in play for a playoff game. But when's the last time you've really talked about Lou City being in 4th?
Yeah.
Indy has all the talent in the world, got off to a horrendous start, and has been red hot ever since. And you're really starting to see what people have called basically the 2018 USL All-Stars can do, because guess what? They got that name because they're still really good. Meanwhile, my brain kind of sees it as Pittsburgh and Tampa, and Charleston's kind of on their own. Charleston may sneak into that second spot, but Charleston is more streaky and less consistent in my brain. That said, Charleston has the high-end talent, and I mean, if you haven't heard and sang the praises of Fidel Barajas, I mean, he's ridiculous, and he's a 17-year-old that can carry this team, and Augie Williams is going to get called up, and he already got called up, I can think, to Sri Lanka again.
Mm-hmm.
They have this international talent, but that's also kind of where it gets hard, is you have a lot of these players like Charleston. Charleston's littered with international talent. USL doesn't get an international break. So they're about to have a whole lot of players taken away, but they're also good enough to not fall into that lower tier. So Charleston's kind of by themselves. As for the carnage at the bottom, Detroit City has one of the best, and I am willing to throw it out there and say the best defense in the USL. It is ridiculous how good they are. They give up more goals than you would expect from the best team, but this is also a team that this whole year has not scored goals. They've been on the back foot all year long, and there's only so long that you can withstand. Them only averaging, I think, like maybe 1.2 goals a game or even less than that. They've had a million of 1-0 losses.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous how good this back line is. And it's a continuity from last year where I don't think any of it's really changed. And Brett Levis joining has really made a big difference too. Tulsa has cleared house. They got rid of all the fan favorites and they have brought in really talented players. And it's worked out enough for them to get into these playoff spots. But with as strong of a team as they can put on the field, I don't think that's really where they want to be. As for Birmingham Legion, we talk about them a lot, and obviously I'm a Legion fan, so like don't get me too started, but they're just an enigma. they're an enigma with, you can say that they have one of the best rosters coming into this season. When we talked about them, we consider them a top 4 team in the USL, and it just hasn't worked. And all this carnage at the bottom is going to lead to a really fun into the season because somebody's heart's going to be broken on decision day. And I'm kind of excited. And also I don't think I can handle it.
So then what is going on in Birmingham since you opened this door? Let's go ahead and go through it. Put your fandom to the side.
Yeah.
I know that you've got your space at Protective. I know that you have the Kaylor Hodges Memorial seat row. But put your fandom to the side. What has gone on this year with, I mean, you talk about streaky teams. I mean, Legion, they've been world beaters, and then they can't tie their shoes for a month.
Yeah.
I mean, what's going on in Birmingham?
Defense. And it all comes down to defense. And simply put, and I don't want to oversimplify it, you only have 2 center backs on the roster. And while they are 2 very good center backs, I'm willing to put Fanuel Kavita and Alex Crognale with any center back pairing in the league. They haven't gotten a break. The only time that they have gotten breaks this year, and I'm not joking, the only time they have gotten breaks is through yellow card suspensions. That's been their only rest all year long. And a lot of these silly mistakes, these lapses in judgments, I think there was a stat that was put out by John Fuller not too long ago that of all like goals scored in the 75th minute plus in the USL, 10% of them have been conceded by Birmingham Legion.
Wow.
And these are players that are exhausted. And these like little lapses in judgments are just tired. And I think that's what it is in the end, is that players are getting tired, they're exhausted, and they frankly keep signing wingers and not signing anyone else. I did the math on it. For people who have appeared for Legion this year as a winger, there have been 12 players to have appeared as a winger for Birmingham Legion this year. You can make a starting 11 with a sub with wingers on this team. There's only one striker on the team, Nico Brett. There's no other out-and-out forwards on the team. It's just not a very balanced roster construction, and I think they're really paying for it towards the end of the year.
When you mention all of that, I mean, the chaos that will happen. You mentioned international break, and I went to the list that was produced by USL Championship.
Yep.
I'm just going to mention teams. Sacramento, Tampa Bay, Tulsa, Hartford, and Hartford really does need Modesto Mendez with where they are in the standings. El Paso, New Mexico United, the Miami FC, Roots, San Antonio, Sacramento, Switchbacks, Pittsburgh, Switchbacks, Pittsburgh. Let's see where we are. Who am I missing? Augie Williams with Charleston Battery, Yosiki with Monterey Bay, Oakland Roots with Neviel Hackshaw, San Antonio again, Shannon Gomez, Ryan Telford, the Miami FC. Central Valley actually is losing a lot of folks in one, but it looks like it's going to hit Sacramento hard, and it's going to hit Pittsburgh hard at the worst possible time for those teams.
That said, there were also teams that created enough of a buffer that they can survive that. And while they are some of the best players, you look at Sacramento and you look at Pittsburgh, Sacramento, and San Antonio are some of the best examples in the USL Championship of plug and play. Like Bob Lilly, Mark Briggs, and oh my gosh, I'm forgetting San Antonio's coach's name now. I've talked about him a million times. Anyway, doesn't matter. They have built these systems where they have brought in high-end talent, and they can do that, but it's more system than player. And we talk about Jimmy. I talked about Jimmy's and Joe's earlier. That's Tampa Bay, and that's Charleston. But when you talk about Pittsburgh, Sacramento, and San Antonio, yes, players are important. Bad players don't win games, but system fixes it. System can do it. And I think those are teams that can survive it.
Alan Marcina is the answer to our trivia.
Alan Marcina. I was to have Marcina on the tongue, and I was like, I don't think that's right.
Oh, it was. You had it.
I was there.
You mentioned the West, so let's get into the West here a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned Sacramento, San Antonio, 2 points separating them at 1 and 2. Then there's gap space. Orange County's had a fantastic turnaround over the last year and a half, really, after they were just at the bottom of the table. They're at the bottom of the table early this year, and they've hit the gas pedal. They're in third, and they've won their last 5. Then you start to get into that second grouping: San Diego, Phoenix, Oakland, and then you get into the chaos down at 7 and 8 with Switchbacks at 36, Locomotive at 35. That's your playoff bar. Locomotive have lost 4 and 5 at the worst possible time. Switchbacks have been drawn back into it, losing 2 in a row. Monterey Bay, another streaky team this year. You don't know which one of those you're going to get. They're right now below the playoff bar at 34, but they only have 9 wins. They've got some work to do. New Mexico United at 33. Rio Grande Valley with Wilmer Cabrera's at 32. So 4 points, 5 teams, 7 through 11. And I know that this is what the USL Championship wants, is that they want competition leading into that final weekend to try to make sure everything is still relevant. But the chaos we talk about in the East is the same kind of chaos we have in the West.
Yeah, and it wasn't really this case. Oh, this was the case last year for the West. The West last year was all on the bottom was just a grind, and the top had already submitted themselves as we're the best. We're probably going to win it all anyway. When you talk about those teams, if I were to put like power rankings of teams that I trust going into this, right? Colorado Springs, they are an enigma and of themselves as well. They are another team that I didn't believe. I didn't believe at all in them this year, and they've been better than expected. But then they just do nothing. And it really doesn't make sense either, because you watch the games and they're doing the same exact thing that they were doing when they scored 3. But for some reason, it's just not doing it. New Mexico is a team that I haven't believed in at all this year. They have talent. You look at the roster and you say this should do something, but New Mexico and the Miami FC are the same team in my mind of they can't. Until they make me believe, I won't believe in them.
They can't walk and chew gum at the same time?
Yeah, like I'm not going to believe in them until they show me that I can believe in them.
Okay.
When I look at RGV, they're a team that always makes their way into the playoffs, and I believe in the talent that they have there. Why do I believe in RGV? I don't know. They just always seem to do it. They just seem to have the magic down in Edinburgh. And when you look at El Paso, something I said all year long with El Paso was I believed in their defense. I said this preseason that I believe in their defense. I believe in their starting forwards, but they have no depth in attack. If one of them gets hurt, they are screwed. And while they haven't been hurt, those two forwards that I really believe in have been ice cold, and they have no one else they can bring on. El Paso is a team when they're running hot can be top of the league, but they are streaky, and they are as streaky as streaking can get. As for Monterey Bay, they are just I believe in the back line, but the attack, they can score at a prolific rate if they can get shots off. Sometimes that is their issue. They are just too selective. And then whenever they decide, hey, we've been too selective, they start shooting from 40 yards out, and that's all they're taking all day long. And it's really frustrating to watch because in a weird way, I started having a love of Monterey Bay, like just an infatuation with them because, yeah, they would score. Like they had I think a 40% conversion rate through half of the season. It was like, how are you doing this? And it's because they would have some games where they wouldn't even put a shot on. And it just made no sense. So they are they are a team that confuses me. And just the bottom of that West is just confusing because they can all be world leaders except for New Mexico and Colorado Springs. And then the rest are just there.
All right. So I haven't had the chance to ask you about this since it happened, but what has been the USL Show's take on what has been going on in San Diego with the Loyal not being able to find a home? And this is the last season of the San Diego Loyal as we know it.
So one of our good friends, Alan Underwood, he has been on Two Balls and a Mic, which is pretty much the leading soccer source in San Diego, and he is a mainstay on our show. And it was hard. We did our first episode back, and we weren't really sure how to tackle it because San Diego was one of the pillars of how to build a community club. You have clubs like Oakland, your New Mexico's, your Detroit cities, and your San Diego's. Those four are the pinnacle in the championship of how to build a community-led group. And there's a lot of talks about what happened with the venue stuff that, if you ask someone closer to the source, maybe they'll talk to you about it, but not for me to say. But like, it's not as blunt as MLS ruined it, but
Right.
also that's a lot of the crux of the issue. And they didn't want to put out less of a product. They didn't want to put out something worse. They didn't want to give a worse venue for the fans. And it's been really hard to see because Loyal felt like a team that was going to be around for 50 years. And that was kind of all of our takes, is that we're just sad. And it really shows just how finicky US soccer still is. We thought when Reno shut down a couple years ago that was going to be the last one, because Reno was well attended and they were a good team.
Yep.
And we were like, it can never happen again. Like, we have gone past that point. And then San Diego happens. And this sounds absolutely horrible, but if it was Las Vegas, nobody would bat an eye. But this was San Diego. And I think it really hit us that US soccer is not there yet. It's not safe. It's still not a smart investment.
And you look at, I mean, Andrew Vasiliadis went on social media 3.5 minutes and explained the situation and that they tried. Yes, feel free to hydrate. Yes, we need guests hydrated. That's perfectly fine. I do it too. But I mean, and Andrew said that they went up and down the coast looking for a venue and they couldn't find one. And so, they're going to turn over the keys to the idea of a franchise back to USL Championship, and we'll see what happens from there. I mean, it is the nature of the economics right now of soccer, and sadly, San Diego won't be a part of it in USL Championship after this season. So, all right, two things to wrap up your segment. And as always, it is red light, yellow light, green light, and then we'll preview the weekend and what folks need to be watching when it comes to the USL and USL Championship specifically. Red light, yellow light, green light. Niko Moreno coming up Thursdays with Niko. He'll be in Seattle, and he does the same thing that we do with you. Red light. Who is your red light this week? Who's your yellow? Who's your green? Where do you want to start? What direction do you want to start? Do you want to build up or do you want to build down? How do you want to do it?
I want to just go ahead and just build up. I want to be in a good mood, going into this as we leave.
Okay.
I don't want to be full on just so harsh. And I think this was my red light before. I am so out on New Mexico. They are my strongest red light. They have all the talent and they just cannot do it in front of still some of the best crowds that you'll see. And I think if it was another club that was kind of middling like New Mexico, it wouldn't bother me as much. But they are a club that is well attended and they have the resources, it feels like, and you just want it to be better. Red light for them. I think they're well out of the playoffs. I don't think they're going to sneak their way in unless they just get red hot, but I don't see it. They haven't shown it to me this year.
Okay. All right. So yellow light, and the way that we phrase yellow is it can either be a team going from red toward green, or it can be a team going from green toward red. Who's your yellow light?
My yellow light is going to be Detroit City going from red to green. They are a team that recently they started figuring out how to score, and it's for Detroit City with the carnage that is the bottom of the East. This sounds awful, but you can draw your way into the playoffs, and Detroit City has the lineup to draw their way in. All they need is one goal. All you need to score is one goal, and you can rely on your back line to at least get you a point. That's just kind of the nature of the way they're set up. And if Ben Morris can really keep what he's doing going, because he started off awfully, and he's really starting to show what he was supposed to be doing when he was at Ipswich. And I think that this is a team that is going to start becoming a green, and you do not want to play them in the playoffs.
All right. So then who's left on your board for the other direction that we're staring at now?
I want to go over to Oakland.
Okay.
I know that they're sitting in 6th, but this is not really an Oakland per se, more or less a Paul Blanchett. If you haven't been keeping up, he's about to set the record for most shots stopped in a USL season with 7 games to go. And he's ridiculous. And he's one of those guys, and this is one of those teams that they don't have the defense of Detroit City, but they have a goalkeeper that you can just ride. And then they have players that can score. And they are a team that always seems to do something in the playoffs. They never do nothing. And I think they're firmly going to be in the playoffs this year. And Oakland gets up and gets out for the playoffs, or just for their club in general. So I am green light on Oakland. I think they're going to ruin somebody's season. And Paul Blanchett is going to is going to be the frustration and nightmares of several clubs to come at the end of the season.
We also got the news from Oakland that they're going to spend one more year at their current home as they work on the modular stadium to get everything squared away for 2025. Okay, viewing habits for the weekend. What are your viewing habits when you're not staring at the other football, either high school or college, when it comes to USL?
Well, when it comes to USL, like I pretty much just only watch the USL. I mean, this week there's a couple of good games that are going on. Honestly, the biggest games for me this week were already played. And that was your what do they call it? Oh my gosh. North Carolina and Omaha. Like that was a crazy match.
It was.
The biggest match that I think I am really, really looking forward to is going to be your Tampa Bay Lou City. It's going to be a fun one. This is a match that always goes crazy. This is, of course, if my wife will let me watch, because she is binging Gilmore Girls right now. So
wow. That's a retro binge.
Yeah, so she recently discovered that it was on Netflix, and so she's watching Gilmore Girls. So we're going to find out if I'm going to be able to watch it.
As always, hit the promo for me for the USL show with you and Morrissey and the Merry Band.
We have one more day to buy the USL show kit.
There you go.
So we have a kit that is out that is all based on the USL, essentially. So it has all the colors of the A League, the Y League, League 2, W League, Super League, League 1, Championship, all the colors on it. It has the big protagonist logo in the middle, our logo, and then our other show kit season on the back. And the big reason why you should buy it, especially, hey, this is soccer down here. We want to support soccer down here. 100% of proceeds, all of it, we are keeping 0 of it, is going to South Georgia Tormenta and the Carter Payne Fund.
Well done.
So all the money made from it is going to go straight to them, of supporting local soccer and putting it into a memorial fund that we are heavily invested in. So all of the money is going to be going straight down to Statesboro, and we want to help raise as much money as possible.
All right, for those that want to watch, listen, and take a part of at the USL Show on the 280 character app, how do they do it?
Find us at the USL Show on Twitter. You can look up the USL Show on YouTube and also on Twitch. We don't have a whole lot of Twitch interaction, so please start joining us on Twitch.
There you go.
So yeah, you can find us, same handle, the USL Show. Find us anywhere.
What he said. As always, my friend, it's great to have you and your merry band of at the USL showers coming on and breaking everything down as we head toward the end of the regular season. Obviously, regular season's over. After the regular season's over, we'll have you guys back on to talk about the playoffs and you might be fairly regular through the playoffs as we continue to roll things through. And we'll keep an eye on stuff with the craziness in USL League One, which is always madness when it comes to who wants to be in the playoffs in USL League One and who wants to be up top. Everything's kind of compressing now. Hailstorm was there. North Carolina was there. Now they're all kind of jumping on top of each other. And if you're on the outside looking in like Juan Knox and Tormenta, you got some work to do to get into the playoffs. Kaylor, my friend, thanks as always. Be safe on your Friday covering high school football in the state of Alabama. We'll catch up soon, my friend.
Appreciate it.
Kaylor Hodges, he's going to go hydrate, and he's going to make sure that everything is cool with he's got to prep. You got to prep to be ready for the weekend because of everything going on in the world of soccer. You have to properly hydrate, and you have to have multiple devices ready to go at any time. USL Championship, USL League One, all the stuff going on with everything with our friends at the USL Show. At the USL Show on the 280-character app. Niko Moreno coming up just around the corner where we can look at things through the Pacific perspective. But we had this come across while we were doing our segment, so let's go right here. Transaction news out of Major League Soccer. Minnesota United have acquired Caden Clark. Minnesota United, and this is from the team themselves. They've acquired midfielder and U20 men's national team international Caden Clark via transfer from RB Leipzig on a 2-year deal with 2 club options for an undisclosed fee. Clark joins the Loons at the start of the primary transfer window in 2024. RB Leipzig announced on Friday, September 1st, that they have loaned Clark to the Danish side Vendsyssel FF until December 31st, 2023. So Caden Clark, the pride of Medina, Minnesota, at the end or at the start of the MLS primary transfer window in 2024, moves over from RB Leipzig and heads over to Minnesota United. So obviously nothing this year, but he'll be back as a part of it next year. Start of the MLS primary transfer window in 2024. And that's where we are with Caden Clark coming back to Major League Soccer, but he's going to be a loon, but not until the turn of the calendar year. Keeping an eye on what's going on with Saudi Arabia. According to David Ornstein, as of a half hour ago, neither Jadon Sancho nor Mo Salah will be moving to Saudi Arabia before the transfer window deadline. Remember, we're 90 minutes away. On Sunday, Sancho called Erik ten Hag's claim he was left out of the squad to face Arsenal completely untrue. Subsequently linked with a move to Saudi Arabia, but a transfer won't be happening. Salah, 100 rejected, 150 rejected. Thoughts of 200 and 215 were on the board. Quoting Ornstein, although he won't be moving anywhere tonight, well-documented interest in Salah remains for a potential future move. Good relations between all parties. So Al Ittihad, according to Jabir Wael, still have a little bit of work to do. And no worries on Niko's. Nothing like having multiple conversations with everybody. So when Niko comes on, once again, we've got a hard out at the top of the hour because we're catching up with coaches and stuff. So it's all good. All right. So gossip, rumor, and innuendo. Before we move into Niko Moreno, we will try and get that done quickly with everybody moving. Okay. So here we go. Al Ittihad was supposed to launch the bid. Ornstein says that's not going to happen. Salah will not leave Liverpool this year, despite being offered the contract worth between $500 and $600 million over 3 years. We mentioned John Terry in the 3-letter paper. Hugo Lloris faces playing exile until January, with the French international having shown no inclination to go, despite Spurs receiving offers for the player. Eric Dyer's held talks with Daniel Levy about Ange Postecoglou, linked with the move to Saudi Arabia. Once again, keep an eye on everything for the next 90 minutes there. Liverpool tried to swap Darwin Nunez for Joao Felix before the Portuguese attacker joined Barca for Atletico Madrid. Kepa, who moved to Real Madrid on loan this summer, says he spoke with Bayern Munich head coach Thomas Tuchel, was close to joining the Bundesliga champs before a late call from the Bernabeu. That's from Marca. Bayern Munich set to launch a fresh bid for Joao Palhinha in January, according to the Evening Standard. Manchester City captain Ilkay Gundogan has admitted he former captain, snubbed interest from Arsenal and other suitors because playing for Barca was a childhood dream. Aston Villa have agreed on a deal for Philippe Coutinho to join Qatar side Al Duhail on loan. His new club is set to pay all of his wages. That's from Fabrizio Romano. Chelsea's Levi Colwill revealed that ex-Brighton teammate and former Liverpool star Adam Lallana convinced him to sign a new contract and remain at Stamford Bridge under Mauricio Pochettino. 4-letter paper, take the information at your own peril. Antoine Griezmann is set to leave Atletico Madrid at the end of the season and join Lionel Messi in heading to Major League Soccer. No destination attached. That's from Sport. Chelsea have held talks with Riyadh Air. We talked about that in the first hour. Kylian Mbappe is ready to give up on a £68.6 million loyalty bonus in his PSG contract, but has again made clear to the club he will not sign a new deal. And Eden Hazard has dropped a hint that retirement is edging closer in a new documentary series on the Belgian national team. That is from the 4-letter paper. Take the information at your own peril. So that catches us up on all of the transfers and all of the stuff that we have going on. It looks like tomorrow morning at 10, Jack Collison will be joining us live from Huntsville to discuss what's going on with Hunt City and getting ready for the matchup against the Twos. Great first season for Jack after spending their first 7 matches on the road as they got Joe Davis Stadium ready to go. So Jack Collison will be live 10 o'clock here on SDH to discuss what's going on as they get ready for Atlanta United 2 big match in the Eastern Conference and MLS Next Pro. We'll talk about Huntsville, talk about the season, talk about his players, talk about the matchup, all these kinds of things, and what it's like for him in Huntsville too. So Jack Collison looks like he's going to be joining us tomorrow morning, 10 o'clock, live on SDH. So very, very cool to get that piece of news as we're bouncing around back and forth trying to get 9,000 things done here before we go. Let's see. What else was on the board this morning? We mentioned Ballon d'Or. We mentioned all of the absences. Okay, Columbus Crew has waived Luis Diaz. NYCFC have loaned Gabriel Siegel to an Israeli Premier League club. Siegel has now gone to Hapoel Tel Aviv through June of 2024. And the other piece of news, Ersan Kara has been transferred to the Turkish Super League. And that, let's see, Ersan Kara, once again, quickly, Samsunspor. And that was announced this week. And so that opens up a DP spot, leaves Duncan McGuire, Romero, Enrique as their top strikers for the playoff push. Jack Lynn can be called up from OCB to add thoughts. All right. Yes, Ricky. Caden Clark to Minnesota official. And that begins at the beginning of the 2024 calendar year. 2024 calendar year. Not immediate, but he goes to the Loons to begin 2024. And so, to close out the show, for 27 minutes, we get Niko Moreno to hang out with us. And we get Niko on Thursdays with Niko. And salute, my friend. Glad you're here for another Thursday. And so, the news came across Caden Clark coming back from RB Leipzig, not this season, but at the beginning of the next window in January. So January 1st or 2nd, Caden Clark returns from RB Leipzig, and he goes to Minnesota. Interesting pickup for them, for the U20 national for the United States.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. First of all, thank you for having me as always. Mm-hmm. Greeting all your audience. And that's that one coming by surprise a little bit. I thought that he could have probably stayed out in Europe and continue to develop out there. But, with everything that's going on in MLS and the growth of this league, it's not necessarily a downgrade is going to keep him there. He could come back, develop, continue to grow on a lot of aspects of his game, and then make another attempt to stay in the European team, in the European League. So he definitely is an asset for Minnesota. Everything that he brings in is kind of coexist with what you have right now going on. I think Reynoso would be happy to have a guy with that sort of engine and talent and ability to just be shifty. So, yeah, I think it's a good fit. and I don't see anything wrong with it. Minnesota definitely continues to surprise in that aspect. I think they've gotten a lot better in terms of their scouting and roster building. So those are step forwards in general for Minnesota.
All right. We've got, and this is the weird thing that happens with Major League Soccer. We are in a massive international competition window, and we may even get into that to finish up things with South American qualifiers already starting this weekend and this week. What is your overall thought on Major League Soccer playing games through an international window?
I think it can be done better. I think it can change. I'm not as this is outrageous because there are leagues that do play throughout the window. In Brazil, there's been times in Colombia league that just certain games happen. You have to play through those games. It's just a lot more obvious here because there was no attempt at all to change it initially. There have been a couple of adjustments made. We've talked to coaches around the league, and they are asked about particular games. Where do you guys want this game? This is how many players that you might not have for an international window. Where would you like to put that game? So small things have happened, but with 70 players from MLS being called up to various national teams for this international break, it's a lot more serious. It's more in your face. It's a clear problem for everybody. And I'm not going to lie, having a guy like Tata Martino and Lionel Messi here gives you a little bit more of a couple of voices that have some authority and that are going to want to make those changes. Tata's not happy to play this upcoming game without all his stars and quite a few of his young prospects. So with someone like him at hand and saying, hey, man, we need to figure this out, I think there is a way that you could probably fix it. Reality, though, is that you have CONCACAF Champions League, you have Champions League Cup,
right.
You have the New Leagues Cup, you have Open Cup, you have MLS. So there's a lot of a clog of a calendar where you might have to either cut back on some MLS games or figure out some of the schedules. But it's no easy task to truly not play when there's that FIFA break and players are obligated to go to their national teams.
And the reason I ask is because you're reading my notes. And this weekend, we've got a handful of matches in Major League Soccer. And one of them has to do with Messi and friends as they chase after that final playoff spot. And they've got Sporting Kansas City coming to town. Right now, Miami has escaped wooden spoon territory. They've got 9 matches to go, if my math is right. And they are 8 points out of that final playoff spot. And I don't necessarily, would we be bringing up this topic if it wasn't Messi and friends? They weren't making this rush. And you have 9 players from your roster that will not be available to you in this match that is this important heading down the line. I mean, let me where is my list? Because there was a list that was posted by Major League Soccer of everybody who's not going to be available, who's going to be out on window and all these kinds of things. And it was 9 players, 9, man, for
Inter Miami. Yeah, you got Calendar, Kremoski, Messi, Gomez.
I found it. So
I'm at 4.
Okay. Azcona, Calendar, Kremoski, Gomez, Krivtsov, Joseph, Messi, Ruiz, and Robert Taylor.
Ruiz. Okay. Yep. Exactly. That's a whole lot of players. Tata talked about it, right? We already have some academy kids up in our roster, and now we're going to have to dig even deeper to play a game because the Sporting Kansas City team that got Pulido back. That looks different with Pulido. That is starting to see flashes of vintage Russell. That the defensive end has finally solidified themselves to a certain way. They're coming with some momentum. They need the points. So yeah, that's tough break for Inter Miami team that we talked about this in Soccer Bar. You know, you look at the calendar and the next 4 games are key, right? Is this one, can you draw? Can you pull up a point? And then you play Atlanta, right? That's a huge game. You're playing at Atlanta. Atlanta needs points. Atlanta is in a different mindset these days, despite, you know, still some inconsistencies. It's a rival. It's a tough atmosphere. It's Tata back in Atlanta. So that's a big one. Then, you know, they get a nice, easy one, a freebie against Toronto, and then they go to Orlando. That's another tough game. So I think those are the games that are going to define whether Inter Miami goes through or not.
Well, and then you even look past that a little bit. You end up with, when you come back after this match with Sporting, when everybody's allegedly back, you know, if they haven't hopped on a flight and gotten a private jet and worked their way back to their home teams, they've got 5 matches in 14 days. After that, you take the Sporting match that's this weekend, you put that one to the side. After this weekend, 5 matches in 14 days. At Atlanta, home to Toronto, 4 days later. 4 days later, at Orlando. 3 days later, it's the U.S. Open Cup final against Houston. 3 days later, you host NYCFC. So that's hell, man. I mean, that is hell to try to get your matches made back up and possibly winning a title. And you know that the priority in there with all of this is winning Open Cup to get another crown for this team in this season. So are you figuring, okay, is it the Orlando match? You can't do that because that's a rival. You can't sit folks on that one. Is it the home match against NYC that ends this run where you see some rotation? I mean, there's a lot of decisions that are going to have to be made after that Sporting match this weekend, and your future might already be decided for you a little bit.
Absolutely. And the one bright spot when it comes to that potential rotation is that so far so good for rotating this squad. And you saw it against LAFC. Tata surprises everyone by not playing with Capana on top, allows Facundo Farias to be right next to Lionel Messi. Can Lionel Messi just come off the bench eventually? I don't know. But when I looked at that team and I saw what they were able to do with a lot of different guys, that's the very first time that all 6 new players played with Inter Miami. And although it took them a little bit of time, they absorbed pressure. Calendar was amazing, regardless of Bouanga's inability to score and wanting to be the it man and just honestly not taking advantage of easy choices in front of goal. But I thought that they were able to do that. And then once things got going, they put up a clinic in transition, absolutely flawless, 2-3 spots. Lionel Messi just making that back line look silly. Aaron Long helping out a little bit with some passes to Lionel Messi of his own. But at the end of the day, I think that this team is starting to see what certain players can provide, even if at some point they don't have Busquets and Alba and Lionel Messi. So I think in that regard, Tata Martino has to be feeling pretty good about the other supporting cast alongside Messi and friends.
And at the same time, you're kind of setting things up for next season because there's the talk of Luis Suarez possibly coming in, and you know that he would probably end up being a DP or a high TAM if he signs the Busquets or Alba deal, you know, whichever direction he goes. But with the young players that they brought in, you're kind of seeing that gravitational pull of the young guys that want to come in and either be U22s or sign contracts and play with Messi, Alba, Busquets, and Messi and friends. So there's this build at the same time that they're making this race to chase after not one title or 2, and then the playoff push at the same time.
Yeah. And I think anytime you have a guy like Tata Martino that can set your pieces and can create systems that allow those players to be successful or play pragmatic or do whatever he needs to do to get points. I'm starting to turn into a believer. I mean, I was the guy that told you guys that this was impossible to happen. And not in my best guess would I've ever thought that this thing was going to be as good as it's looking right now, right? I had no idea that those three characters in a team would create a whole new persona in Kremovsky that's all of a sudden with the U.S. national team, that Taylor was going to turn into this polished white player that is decisive and patient at times and can coexist with all these stars, and that Campana would be okay coming off the bench, and that Joseph would not be screaming at the top of his lungs to start. Everything just kind of fit with these guys, and that's been the real reason why this team continues to surprise everybody, is because they are really working as a unit. And I think you have to credit those new players and Tata Martino for how everything's working out.
No doubt. And you stare at it, and I think that this sprint toward the end of this month will obviously, I think that by Open Cup, we might have the idea as to what the approach is going to be for Messi and friends when it comes to the last month of the season in October. Coaching news this past week, Robin Fraser fired in Colorado. And the big point that we were discussing on the show leading up to today's discussion with you is that if things are the way they are in Colorado, where they're not scoring goals, and if it wasn't for William Yarborough, they would be horrendous defensively. The defensive numbers would be off the charts bad. Why fire Robin Fraser now unless you've got a runway prepped for next year that we don't know about, and it doesn't necessarily look like that's the case? Why not let Robin Fraser just finish out the string, work on all your stuff behind the scenes, say something that put out an announcement if you're going to make this decision. Robin Fraser, his contract will not be renewed for next season. We look forward to finishing the season with Robin and building things toward the 2024 season. What did you think of the dismissal?
They needed a scapegoat. That general manager in the front office, they needed a scapegoat to say, hey, it's not us. It's not the fact that we were mediocre in scouting and bringing players and trying to make and give Fraser and the rest of these players tools to win some games. And we try to get out here and bring the striker that this franchise needed. And just so they had to not do that, they fired the coach. And it's unfortunate. It's sad. You're talking about a coach that was a runner-up for head coach of the year in 2021. Is a guy that early in the season was doing what he could to earn points, had injuries, made some mild moves to try to keep his team going, and yet wasn't able to do it. But the real issue here is that he went into new MLS with new talent, with a roster that might not even be a fighting chance type of team 5-6 years ago. So you haven't grown, you haven't developed, you haven't been able to either develop guys or have your DPs be successful. So it's just about a bad Colorado franchise that needed to blame someone. And so they let go of Fraser. But there is no plan. I don't see, to your point, any effective reason to fire him now. It's not like they're going to be looking for a guy. It's not like you're going to be getting any of these top guys that just left any teams. Gio's not going there. He's definitely not going there, not with that type of team. Right. If Bruce goes, Bruce definitely not going there. So what's the point? What's the reason? There is no real reason. They just want to make the fans seem like, we're unhappy with how things played out. We had no idea that with this roster we couldn't win, and so we let go of the coach. That's the only reason.
Have you heard in your circles, and this is basically, a yes, no, maybe kind of a thing. Have you heard anything about the Bruce Arena situation? We are now a month and 4 days, I believe, if my math is correct, after he was placed on administrative leave. And this has been one of the tightest lipped ideas that we have seen in recent history with any coach, any league, any platform. We've heard nothing. And then Showery Joseph comes out yesterday on his Twitter, and what seemed like it was a bit of a goodbye. You know, he's thanking him for all of the meetings and everything and all the wisdom that he imparted. Have you heard anything on any level about what is going on in New England?
I'm going to be very careful with this, because if there is one person that does not allow anyone to say the most remote or indication of his character at all, is Bruce Arena. So I'm going to be very careful. What I will say is that there had been rumblings in the locker room about some issues with Bruce Arena and maybe him having some problems with that front office in New England. But I'm just seeing what everybody's seeing, reading in between the lines of the last couple of games. We know that Bruce Arena is someone that might say something that is not acceptable, or perhaps he shouldn't say. Okay. He's a bit of an old school guy, and he's someone that everywhere he's been, he's kind of the Nick Saban of wherever he goes, right? So, who's going to come at me? Is it the press? Is it the players? Not really. I'm the coach. I'm the coach. Yeah. So because of that, I think that perhaps it might rub the wrong way of certain people around the organization or the team, and that is probably what we're seeing there slowly. But there has been indications throughout the season, if you really look at it and you really read certain stories, where you might start to see and kind of fit where things started to go wrong for Bruce. But it sounds like, to what you just mentioned, everybody knows something that we don't know. Everybody in that organization knows something that's coming that no one knows. But if you read in between the lines, it seems like Bruce Arenas is likely to be announced as probably parting ways, mutual departure, or both parties decided to move on.
Right. Yeah. And I like I said, since you are far more plugged in than a lot of folks, I just want to know if you had heard anything, or if it was as sealed up to you and your sources at Pulso and Soccer Bar as it has been to us, having heard virtually nothing when it came to the situation over the last month plus.
Yeah, absolutely. And I tried to reach out to a few sources down there in New England. I tried to get some few sources that you would think or you would know that have a close association with Bruce, and absolutely nothing came about it. So I'm kind of been in the red of, just like you guys, kind of in the blind when it comes to that. But like I said, as much as I've heard things here and there in the past from certain sources, you could see that there was starting to be a little dysfunction and a little bit uneasiness about him continuing as the head coach.
All right. Going quickly into last weekend and running into red light, yellow light, green light before we go, because we both have a hard out top of the hour. Last weekend, NYCFC Vancouver draw. Orlando beat Cincinnati 1-0. DC put 4 on Chicago. And it appears that Wayne Rooney is not happy with his contract situation or with the rules of engagement in Major League Soccer. The Telegraph this morning is saying that if there is a coaching change at Birmingham City, that they would like to have Wayne Rooney come back to have a big splash and such. So that came out this morning. Crew doubled Montreal 4-2. New England, Austin 2-2 draw. Dallas, Atlanta 2-2 draw. Kansas City beat All Caps 2-1. Nashville and Charlotte tied at 1. RSL beat Colorado 2-0. Everybody beats Colorado. LAG and Houston Dynamo, goalless draw. San Jose tied Minnesota. Seattle and Portland 2-2 draw. Where do you want to go?
I mean, are we going green light, red light, or are we just going to talk about some of these games?
Yeah, recap last week before we go into red light, yellow light, green light.
All right. So let's start with the Sounders, just because that's kind of the one of the subjects that I have to touch on, and I'll try to be brief here. A 2-2 draw that should have not been. The Seattle Sounders dominated that first half. They look good, intensity-wise, tempo-wise, being dangerous throughout their first half. They had the right idea. It seemed like they had the number finally against Portland, and Leo Chu decides to take off his jersey in the 27th minute after a very good goal, a goal he deserved. And let me be clear on something. Whenever I criticize a player, it's not because I'm trying to be a bad guy or I don't understand, the emotion that goes through a player, but I do expect you to be a professional first and think of your teammates first. And if you want to show that passion and you really are taking this rivalry by the horns, then show that to me by not taking off your jersey and getting a yellow card that was going to limit you for the rest of the game, that you knew that you might need that yellow card as a white player that has a lot of responsibilities, including defensive ones, where if you need to be, you might need to take a tactical foul and you're going to need that yellow card. So all in all, I appreciate Chu's effort, the goal, the dangerousness throughout that game, but that really put the team in a disadvantage. And then it resulted in a red card after he goes in a little bit late. Was it a yellow? Was it not a yellow? I don't really know. It was a soft, perhaps. But at the end of the day, you caused that issue by getting a childish, selfish yellow card initially. Now, he addressed it. He said that he apologized, that he'll learn from this experience. I certainly hope so. But that red card in the second half gave Portland life, momentum. Darren Asprilla comes in. Darren Asprilla has been a nightmare for the Seattle Sounders in his whole career, every single time. Doesn't matter if he's starting in PKs or coming off the bench. Darren Asprilla has been a nightmare for Seattle, and he proved that right. Posterizes Nuhu once again, as Gigi did a couple of weeks back. He could have done better on that one. All in all, I think Brian Smetzer also has some fault here. He could have taken Chu off, for one. Number two, once Chu's off, he takes too long to make the reactive changes, right? And then by the time he brings in a defender and someone to help out defensively, the game's already 2-2. So now you're holding on to a draw. So big game for a Seattle Sounders team that was already stumbling, and now they get another emotional punch to the gut, and we'll see how they respond.
All right, 2-minute warning, red light, yellow light, green light. Go ahead and run them all together. What do you know?
All right, well, if we're going to run them all together, let's go ahead and my red light was obviously not going to be Colorado because we've just known too much about it. It's no big deal. But I'm going to go ahead and say that San Jose is starting to trend in the wrong direction here. They were a team that I was very high on, that is well coached, that I think has some pieces. But the 1-1 against Minnesota was a little bit of a red flag to me. And I'm going to go ahead and put them down from the yellow to the red, simply because of the rest of their schedule, where they're sitting right now in the Western Conference, and because I think that they could really stumble down and have some issues. So I'm going to go ahead and place them there at the red light. With the yellow, I'm going to go with Inter Miami. Inter Miami is yellow trending on green. If they can draw this game coming up without 9 players, I'm going to be obligated to put them in a green. I mean, this team dominated LAFC. It was a 3-1 game that, whether it could have gone another way or not, is not here nor there. This is the way that it resulted. Lionel Messi didn't have a great game, but he gave you 15 minutes, 5 here, 5 there, 5 there of brilliance, and that was good enough. Alba was connected. I like what Facundo Farias brought in. Then Campana came on. He looks dangerous. He knows where to be. Like what Gomez is doing. I'm still surprised on Busquets and his ability to, in this game, play as the lone 6. I didn't think he could do it. He did it. So this team is trending in the right direction. I'm going to put him at the yellow. Now, when it comes to the green, there's no team in terms of results that, for me, deserves the green.
Wow. Okay, cool.
So because of that, I'm just going to give Cincinnati the shout they deserve, because this is a franchise that, from being the worst, like 3 seasons in a row, having no direction, no goals. They are now on their way to their first title as the Shield contenders for the MLS. Unless something tragic happens, unless I have no idea what could possibly go wrong for Cincinnati to not get the Shield. But if all is normal in the world, they should get a Shield and they deserve an applause. And that's why I'll put them on the green category. Once again, they've been in the green, but I wanted to reinstate their greenness level by giving them a shout and taking off my hat and applauding that franchise for turning it around.
Pulso Sports and Soccer Bar, what's going on?
Pulso Sports, we are going to the training grounds today. There's going to be a lot going on here at Sounders Training. We're going to try to gauge the players on a long break that they have and try to figure out how they can get out of this funk. So check that out. We are also having a Columbus Crew player that hopefully we should be able to interview at the end of this week. So that's going to be a good one. I won't say a name just in case I can't secure it, but you guys hopefully will see it by tomorrow, Friday. And we'll talk more about that. Soccer Bar, it's been really, really great having everybody on. I'm going to go ahead and give you guys credit for helping us out to grow. Our views continue to grow. Our subscribers continue to grow. Really appreciate that. We had a really good show on Tuesday because Memorial Day Monday, we didn't do a show then. And then today we're going to get back to it. We're going to talk all things CONMEBOL, some MLS, the U.S. national team games coming up. So you can go ahead and check that out at Soccer Bar.
He's Niko. I'm John. That's Thursday. Jack Collison, head coach of Hunt City, joining us to start hour number 2 tomorrow, starting off at 9:05. We're both out the door because we got to go get smart. We'll take it again, 9:05 tomorrow morning. Niko, as always, my friend, thanks for hanging out. He gives you the salute. I give you the close.